Hey everybody, welcome back to the Let's Talk Pat podcast with me, John, and David, aka Shamrock Balls. And today we're traveling back to 1994, and we're going to be talking about Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, the movie that really started Jim Carrey's movie career. And David, just right off the bat, what are your first thoughts on Ace Ventura, Pet Detective?
Yeah, absolutely love Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. How am I going to start this then? Let me just have a
I
think
know,
here.
where do
Just
we begin?
where do we begin? I mean, my first initial thought is it's nice to be out of the 80s, John, with movies, and do a 90s movie. But again, this is one of my favorite comedies of all time, and thankfully, this is one of these movies that, because we are out of the 80s, that I can actually remember going to see it in the cinema and absolutely loving this film.
That's funny because I didn't actually see this in the movies because I was younger, but I saw it on VHS a million times. This and When Nature Calls and Jim Carrey in 1994. It bears worth repeating just knowing that he did this in February, The Mask in July, and then Dumb and Dumber in December, like all in 1 year. And all those movies were number one at the box office. Like that's incredible for just any actor.
Unbelievable. And that's the thing about talking about Jim Carrey. I mean, he became a superstar with this movie overnight. And then after that, he basically almost owned the 90s with the movies he put out. It was just hit after hit after hit. And I can say that I seen this in the cinema. I also seen The Mask. I don't know why. I never seen Dumb and Dumber for some reason. I don't know why. But the following year, 95, I did see Batman Forever. I seen When Nature Calls. And I also seen Liar Liar in the cinema in the 90s. So I was a big Jim Carrey fan in the 1990s, and nearly every kid I knew was. They absolutely loved Jim Carrey, and they were all running about quoting Ace Ventura, all his sayings, "Oh, righty then," and stuff like that. But the thing was about this film as well, and Jim Carrey, as you were saying there, about what a year he had. Like, I didn't know who Jim Carrey was. I don't think many people where I was from did know who Jim Carrey was, because I know he was on American television and he'd done a few bit parts in movies before Ace Ventura, but I don't think anybody really knew who he was. And like, we used to go to the cinema like every Saturday, me and my younger brother and our friends, or with our cousins or whatever. Um, and there was also a bowling alley down there, so it was kind of like, yeah, you got enough money from my mum. It was either you could go bowling or you could go to the cinema, right? So we'd do one or the other. If it was nothing on the cinema, we'd go bowling, right? And I remember this particular Saturday, it was we were looking at the movies to go and watch, and I remember seeing the title, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and it had been in the cinema for a while, but the title, just the title, was like bizarre to me. It sounded like a kids movie. I have no interest whatsoever. Now, I was, what age was I? This was 94, you say? So I was 12, but I was turning 13 later that year, but I'd seen the title, man, that sounds stupid. And my wee brother I remember standing in the kitchen, and he came in and he said to me, we'll go to the cinema. And I was like, they're not showing anything good. And he was like, I want to see Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. And I was like, I don't want to go. That sounds stupid. Then he was just like, no, everybody says it's really funny. Come, we'll go, come, we'll go. Because I think that, I don't know if he was probably wanting me to go for company, or maybe he wasn't allowed to go by himself. I can't remember, John. But I was adamant. This was the last showing, by the way. This was actually the last showing in the cinema. I remember it was going out of the cinema. There was only on one screen, because we had to look it up in the newspaper. Remember looking it up in the newspaper?
Yeah,
Uh,
people don't remember that.
yeah, that's how old I am. And I was putting my breakfast out, and we had a TV in the kitchen, and they had this like Saturday morning children's show with presenters, and I can't even remember what it was, but they would talk about, do different things on this Saturday morning TV show. But one of the things they would do is would be talk about what movies are on in the cinema to go and see, right? And they said, oh, one movie to watch is Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and they showed a clip, and it was a clip of towards the end where he's on his knees, and Einhorn has the gun to his head, and Jim Carrey's crying and saying, "Please don't kill me, kill him," and all this. And I looked at this on the TV, and I just started laughing. That actually looks funny, and I said to my brother, "Okay, we'll go and watch it." So we went down to the cinema to watch it. He comes on the screen, and he's walking down, and he's kicking the box with all the glass in it. And I'm just sitting thinking, this is a weird this is a weird looking guy. This is a strange guy. And even when he goes, we're going downtown. And I'm just kind of giggling, and then he goes to the door and he speaks to the guy in the apartment, and then you realize he stole the dog, and the audience is kind of giggling, right? They're kind of laughing, and when he gets to the car, and he's pulling these faces, and he tries to start the car, and he's kind of like, it's okay, it gets flooded, we'll just wait a while, and then when that he comes out with a baseball bat and starts bashing the car, and Jim Carrey turns around and says, "We'll try it now." And then he says about, "You want to give us a push while you're back there, pal?" And he smashes. I'm sitting laughing. I'm starting to go into hysterics now when he says that. And when he smashes the back window and he gives out this, "Alrighty then," but you kind of see him. He's like, he's so annoyed that this guy's broke his window. It's such a harsh shot already. Then I can see the veins in his neck bulging, and the car starts. And when he does that impression of Frankenstein, it's alive, it's alive. I literally thought I was going to pee myself. I swear to God, it's the closest I'd ever came to actually peeing myself laughing at something or laughing at a movie. And that from that point on, I was just sold with this film. I just went with the flow and I had so much fun. Up to that point, I mean, I had seen funny movies up to that point. I'd seen movies like Airplane and The Naked Gun and Vacation and movies like that. But up to that point, I had never laughed as hard at a movie as I had laughed at Ace Ventura.
Yeah, no, that's all great stuff. And I love that opening scene. When he gets to the door and he's like, "Sounds broken." He's like, "Oh, most likely, sir, but I bet it was something nice."
and that's the whole thing. When it opens up, like, I'm just remembering back, like, you're kind of going, what is he doing? Why is he doing that? And then once he steals the dog, you catch on, oh, right, okay. And I love when he runs out and he goes, "Got a package, people coming through."
He's got his shirt and everything. Oh, yeah. But like you were saying about Jim Carrey, I came to Jim Carrey first. Actually, the first movie I saw was The Mask, and then I went back and saw Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber. But he was famous here slightly because of the show In Living Color.
Right.
Which, I don't know if you've ever seen clips, but like Fire Marshal Bill and stuff like that stuff is really funny. And it was created by Keenan Ivory Wayans, which the reason why he got the job was because he knew Damon Wayans, and Damon Wayans and him were in a movie called Earth Girls Are Easy. So, kind of got him the job as the one white guy on the show, which is like kind of the opposite of Saturday Night Live, where they had one black guy. So he was the one white guy, but of course he stole the whole freaking show because he was just hysterical and all the stuff he can do with his body. And then they hired him for, even though he wasn't the first choice, because I only got really information from the Wikipedia article too. Like they asked a bunch of other people before they asked him, and then he kind of came in and he was allowed to improvise, and it was like a risk for his career. It's like, it's either going to make me famous or people are going to hate me and it's over. And I could see that because Jim Carrey at the time, like they said it was like perfect for people between ages like 10 and 20. They couldn't be more right because all boys at that age were just quoting this movie all the time. And I never thought about it, but it molded like people of that age's like sense of humor.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, John, I because I am a bit older than you. I mean, so I became a teenager in the 80s, and I lived through that Jim Carrey golden era where he could do no wrong. And I tell you what, every one of them movies in the 90s are fantastic. Even the ones that were critically panned. I mean, even The Cable Guy, which was a cult, didn't. Now I don't know what the numbers are like, but from what I'm led to believe, it just didn't do as well as people expected it to do. Although Jim Carrey made $20 million on it, and fair play to him. But I remember watching that for the first time on Sky Television, and I loved it. And me and my friends loved The Cable Guy, and we were quoting that movie to each other all the time. We thought it was so funny. To be fair, thinking back on the movies he done in the 90s, from Ace Ventura right through to Think Me, Myself and Irene was early 2000s, but those movies he done in the 90s, I actually think his weakest is the sequel to this Ace Ventura out of all the movies. Although, sorry, in saying that, I seen Lar Lar in the cinema. Sorry, I've seen Lar Lar in the cinema. and it's the only time I've seen it, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, I get that. That's the same director of this movie, which is funny. And
All right, okay, I didn't realize that.
yeah, and the thing of and I actually Liar Liar was a big one for me growing up. That was one that still do it, like where my mom, me, and my brother and my aunt, like we still will quote Liar Liar. We loved that movie growing up because again, we just all had like stock in on Jim Carrey. Like I like the Cable Guy too. I actually really like When Nature Calls. I mean, you're probably right. It's like the weakest, but that movie again, it's still so quotable.
Do I have something in my teeth?
Yeah, I still like When Nature Calls because it's a sequel to Ace Ventura. I really don't think it's anywhere near as good as the original. Yeah, again, like I've spoken about other movies on the pod, John, about having them an honesty about them, and I think this is another one of these type of movies that has that kind of honesty about it. And when it went into the sequel, it became a wee bit more corporate, it became a wee bit more studio movie, and I think it was toned down a bit. I actually find the humor in this and the storyline a lot more edgier than the sequel as well. So I just find the sequel a wee bit more, or sorry, the original a wee bit more tighter, funnier, and that's why I felt a wee bit disappointed when Nature Calls. To be honest, still funny scenes in it, still funny parts, but the overall movie for me, I think, is a disappointment. But look, Liar Liar's one I need to revisit because look, I am a Jim Carrey fan. I think he's an absolutely very funny guy, an exceptional talent. And and like you say, I was at that age. I was 12 when I seen this. When I went to see The Mask later that year in the summer, I absolutely loved that movie, and I went to the cinema to see it 4 or 5 times. It's that movie I've seen more times in the cinema than any other movie, but part of that was because there was no other good movies out around that time, I think. And I remember going back to the cinema and going, "Oh, there's nothing really good here. We'll just go and see The Mask again." But I never get tired of that movie. Ace Ventura put Jim Carrey on the map, and it was The Mask, I think, really did it. I know I said earlier, this movie, he became a superstar overnight, but I think it was The Mask that actually did make him a superstar. And then after that, Dumb and Dumber just cemented that.
Yeah, I would say actually when I was a kid growing up, I would probably say I watched The Mask way more than any one of them because The Mask I could just distinctly remember every single trailer on the VHS, including the Dumb and Dumber trailer. So I can remember that VHS just burning the hell out of it. And I love The Mask, but then as I got older, I don't know. I still love The Mask a lot, but I think Dumb and Dumber is my favorite of the three. But I love all three of them. It's tough. I just like look at them, and I'm always like, I can't believe all three of these movies came out within a year of each other. It blows my
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, and funny, we had talked about a Beverly Hills Cop podcast about bringing out comedies and trying to keep them fresh. I mean, you can say that about Jim Carrey. Was that every single one of the comedies he brought out in the 90s? They're very distinguishedly different. And okay, some of his antics you could say are comparable, and that was what I was going to say earlier. That there was an awful lot of people I knew that were older people that didn't like him
Yeah.
when he first came on the scene, and they compared him to Jerry Lewis, but there was a lot of people just didn't like the facial expressions and some of his antics. Now, me being an older man, middle-aged man in my early 40s now, I actually when I was watching this the other night, I haven't seen this movie in I don't know 5 6 years, maybe 7 years, maybe a bit longer than that, maybe 8 years, and I thoroughly loved it. Still laughed out loud at certain parts, even though I knew they were coming, but there was some of his antics I kind of thought to myself, I've outgrown. And I kind of put myself in that train of thought then. If I was this age in the 90s, how would I respond to Jim Carrey? And I can understand maybe some of them criticisms.
Yeah, you can argue a lot. And then like for me watching this movie now, I always liked this movie's plot, and then I'm watching it now and I'm like,
Yes.
that's the weakest part of this movie is the whole plot of the movie because first of all, there's just plot holes everywhere that defy logic. And I mean, I know you're not an American football fan, but there's stuff in here with Dan Marino as an American football fan myself, knowing the years and actually what actually the change in history, it kind of drives me nuts a little bit. And I know that's not for everyone because who else is really paying attention to that? Obviously, that's what they're banking on, but me, it's always in the back of my head.
But that's something I'm totally oblivious to. But you're right about plot holes because one thing I always give this film word for was the storyline. I like how it kind of is a mystery and it unfolds. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of people, if they don't know what happens in this movie, the twist is genuinely gets people. I don't think there's not many people guess the twist, if any.
There's no
When I,
hints to it at all.
No, and I like how it unfolds. But if you look at like plot holes, like for example, like why would Ray Finkel or Lewis Einhorn still have that ring or still be wearing that ring? Why was she wearing that ring when she went to Steve Snowflake? Doesn't
Yeah,
make
why
any
of all
sense
nights? Why would you put that ring on?
when you know you're going to be in the water, right? So right away, but that's the clue, which then it starts, the ball rolling. Which you because it's a movie, you can maybe, and it's not really supposed to be. It's supposed to be a comedy. It's supposed to be over the top. It's not supposed to be realistic. You can forgive it for that. Well, I
Yeah.
think so anyway. I think so.
There's a scene in this movie where he gets shot, where he catches a bullet in his mouth. So if you're trying to take anything in this movie seriously or for facts, like don't,
Yeah.
because that's not this
Yes.
kind of movie. You're there for the jokes, even like when he's first
Yes.
investigating the tank with Snowflake. They're never gonna let this guy in the tank like that with all the reporters around and everything, and he's in there doing the captain's log.
Captain's log, stardate 23.9. Right.
Yeah, he's doing Star Trek as well, and that's so funny. It's one of my funniest parts where he turns around and he says to them before he gets in the tank, he says, "If I'm not back in 10 minutes, just wait longer."
That's a line I still quote all the time. Like at work, like when I go on break, it's like if I'm not back in 30 minutes, just wait longer.
just wait longer, yeah. And it's very funny. And you're right. I was saving that one about the bullet between the teeth for later on because of if we touch on some of the sensitivities of the movie, which I think are blown out of proportion, to be honest with you, because it is a comedy and it is played for laughs and it is played to be over the top. But one thing I will say about the plot, and one thing I think I was thinking the other night when I was watching it again, was what I really like, and it's very smart for them to do, whether they intended it or not, is the fact that he has this kind of animosity with the police force and with Lois Einhorn. So it kind of throws you off a wee bit that she's the bad guy because you think it's just the cops just don't like him. And I think that was very smart to do that.
Yeah, that's actually, it is kind of well written in points. And I always thought that, when I used to say like, oh, well, I like, back in the day, I would say I like Ace Ventura: Pet Detective more just because I thought it had a stronger plot. I like the Miami City, whereas I always felt like When Nature Calls was a funnier movie. Now rewatching them back to back, I just think overall Pet Detective is better and it's funnier. But yeah,
Yes.
it is kind of smartly written in that way. Like he always has this rivalry with Einhorn and Aguado. Good question,
Yeah.
Aguado.
yeah, exactly. And that's another very funny scene when he's in the police station and Einhorn comes in and she says, "Listen, pet dick, how would you like me to make your life a living hell?" And he says, "Why, thank you, Lois, but I'm not ready for a relationship. Your number still 911? Alrighty then." Just some of those great lines, and it reminded me too. Just going back to what I was saying earlier, when I near peed myself in the cinema, I literally near peed myself, John. I really did, and that whole build up of comedy at the very start of those. Just Jim Carrey just doing his thing, just building it up
Just
and building it up
walking in the
and building
room.
it up. Yeah, just walking by the way he walks like a bird.
Yeah, like the way he walks, like shaking his head back and forth, like it's just ridiculous.
He actually he said he based it on a bird. So he did. I seen an interview with him where he talked about he invited Anthony Hopkins over for dinner, and he says he says about he was talking about Ace Ventura, and he says he based his walk on a bird, and apparently Anthony Hopkins says that he done the same for Hannibal Lecter, only he based his on what was it, a snake and a spider, and started describing how he became Hannibal Lecter. And Jim Carrey's being interviewed, and Jim Carrey said he says it actually get very creepy when he started explaining it to me. I did have to offer him more roast beef, and I told him there was a lot more in the kitchen. but come back to that building up in the car. Just remember there, but I love when your man's climbing through the back of the car and he puts his hand on the seat which Ace is sitting in, which Jim Carrey, and he turns and he gnaws at his fingers. And he goes flying out the back of the car, and you see Jim Carrey just driving with a wee smirk on his face, as if yeah, that done it. But that's what I mean. That whole build up at the start, that just had me. And yeah, and when he goes into the police station as well, when he's talking through his backside, do you mind if I ask you a few questions? Do you? He says the other one, he's like, do you have a mint?
What's the matter? Afraid I'm gonna make a stink?
Right, I'm gonna make a stink.
I love that. That's also I don't know if you know that guy. That's Tone Loc, the rapper, which is really funny.
I know his voice and I know his face, and then when I was looking into this as well, like yourself, I done a wee brief bit of research, and then I found out he was a rapper and was well known in the 80s and stuff. I mean, I do know his face and I know his voice, but I couldn't tell you any of the rap songs he done in the 80s or anything like that. But they do a song for this movie.
Yeah, he did do a song for this movie. I think it appears in the credits. Yeah, he did the songs. The two most famous songs he did were "Wild Thing" and "Funky Cold Medina."
You know what I mean? Let's do the wild thing. Wow.
I don't know if you ever heard those songs, but those are him. And the other band that appears in this movie is Cannibal Corpse, but apparently Jim Carrey just likes the band.
Yeah, I was reading that he actually got them into the movie because he likes the band. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always pretty freaking cool. Like, at least he had that pull then. But even as the plot is but it's funny also, we kind of touched on Einhorn, but Sean Young, we've talked about Sean Young on this, when we talked about Batman, Sean Young was all over the 1980s, but for me and you, the first time we ever saw her was in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. This was the first movie that I seen Sean Young in. I'd never seen Blade Runner or anything. I didn't even know at that particular time that she was supposed to be Vicky Vale and Batman, and couldn't take the job because she broke her collarbone. But yeah, I mean, a very beautiful woman, and that was another smart thing to do as well. Well, obviously, which throws people off because Einhorn, Sean Young is an actual woman, that totally is going to throw people in the plot of the movie. But I really like her in this movie. I think she's brilliant.
No, I thought she was really good. She plays her part great. She's a little bit over the top, which everybody in the movie should be. The plot's ridiculous on purpose.
Yeah.
But, another one is Courtney Cox coming out the same year as the first year of Friends, which is pretty crazy. You caught her like literally at the perfect time.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, that she's in this, and I almost forget she's in this. But yeah, I mean, who would have thought that she would have went on to the stardom that she had after being in this movie? But not because of this movie, just after being in this movie, because it was Friends that actually propelled her. And I always think about Courtney Cox. When I was watching this the other night, I was thinking about how she went on to be in the Scream franchise. She's really the only other one out of that series that has went on to do really well outside of Friends, when you think about it.
It's really just her. And like Jennifer Aniston, like, she appears in movies, but I just never felt like she was a strong actress. But yeah, out of everybody, she's probably the most successful. And it's kind of because she was a little bit successful before Friends.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But she was a good actress in a way.
Yeah, and I think that everybody knows Jennifer Aniston because, again, she's a very beautiful woman as well. But you're right, and she's been in movies. But I feel as if Courtney Cox is a movie star more than Jennifer Aniston. Yeah, and she's brilliant in the Scream movies as well.
Yeah, she knows how to play different roles. Like in this movie, I would say it's probably out of hope. She's not really like has the biggest roles. She's really just a liaison between the Miami Dolphins and him. Like, she's really like kind of in between, and then becomes the love interest as the movie goes on, which is always great. How he just, when he's in a bad mood, he's just insulting her. What are you feeding him? I feel bad for the dog.
Yeah, and there's some great lines in this when she when she is first is recommended Ace Ventura by the receptionist.
The bitch.
Oh yeah, exactly. I was like, what? He says about the dog. But even before that as well, John, one of my favorite bits is when he goes into her office and she says, did you get in okay? And he says, yeah, no problem. The man with the rubber glove was surprisingly gentle. And then he sits down and she says, I'll show you a video of Snowflake, and he starts eating the nuts. He's
Oh
eating
my
the nuts.
god, this is great.
And it's you see her kind of looking at him and looking at him. She's disgusted. And then in the end, she says, do you want an ice tray? And he's like, no, I don't smoke. It's a disgusting habit.
It's a disgusting habit.
And all the nuts are all over his teeth. It was so funny. But no, the funny is because Courtney Cox is a proper actress, and she's a straight actress, and she's one of the straighter characters in this movie. And I think that's what I like about this movie more than the second one as well, because there is goofy characters in this movie, but there's a lot more straight characters I feel in this movie than the second movie. But she's one of them, and I was watching this the other night, and a scene which I always really liked, but now I'm older, it's one of my favorite scenes, maybe if not the favorite, maybe second favorite. I'll tell you what my favorite is later. It's when they're looking through the files to do with Ray Finkel, I think, and she starts. It's after he solves the murder of Roger Protector, about the Protector, yeah. And they're looking through the files, and she's asking him about, I was really incredible. What you done back there? And he's like, you don't have to tell me, I was there. And she's like, why is it you do what you do and all this? And there's this kind of sensitive, kind of tender moment between them, and that, for all the goofing about that Jim Carrey does in 95% of this movie, for that scene, and there's another wee bit later on in the movie, there's a couple of scenes in this movie you can see the actual good actor that Jim Carrey is that comes through, which you see him do in later movies like The Truman Show, and then Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And I really enjoy that scene and the music playing and stuff like that, where they're getting he says, do you really don't want to know what I do? And she's like, I'm not sure I do now. And he says, that's good, because once you get inside my head, you can't get out. And then there's also part of me that thinks, I do want to know, but I'm kind of glad he doesn't, because it leaves that mystery. It leaves that up to the imagination. Why does this guy do what he does? Obviously, he loves animals, but there's something more to him. There's something more to his background.
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, like, he goes and gets ridiculed by these cops all the time, but he's a better detective than all of them. He just chooses, and he says it in the movie, that he chooses to be a pet detective, that this is what he would rather do. He outperforms them every step of the way. He solves it on his own. That's the thing. He's not an idiot. What he's doing is, it's just, I don't know how to describe him. He's a loose cannon. He likes the attention. He's just a little bit of a wild card, because he figures it out. He finds the diamond, and then, like, he's like, I went through this. That great montage of him going down the list of all the Miami Dolphins and checking them off. But then when he sees the picture, he immediately knows, like, this guy's not in the picture I have. Who's that? Like, and he's able to figure it out. And then he's like, he got himself a ring, didn't he?
Yeah. And it's funny you should say that, because I think he's an eccentric, right, personality. Yes, you're right. He's a loose cannon. He's not stupid. He's very self-aware of what he does and how he acts. And of course, it's a comedy movie. He's playing up to the camera and the audience. But when he does notice Ray Finkel in the picture, he says it in a normal, serious, dramatic voice. He says, who the hell is that? And then she says, who? And then he does the Ace Ventura version. He goes, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
So, it's like, is he playing a character, right? But like you say, doing that dramatic stuff, it's like, for example, when he goes to the guy's house to find out what is in the big sea tank, and he does this whole spiel about I love when he walks in, and she says, she introduces herself to the guy. I can't remember the name of the billionaire, and she says, Courtney Cox says, this is my friend, and he says, well, does he have a name, or do I just call him friend? And Jim Carrey's like, ha, 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 ooh, that's a good one. And he says, this is Ace. Oh, Tom Ace. And he's like, Tom Ace. But he gives him that whole spiel about the food and makes it, he goes, first of all, he says, you smell terrific. And he's going, like that. And then he gives him a whole spiel about the food, you know what I mean? And then makes this excuse so he can leave the party. It's all kind of planned, Oh, look, there's the hors d'oeuvres,
He's
but
spitting out while he's looking at the guy. He's like,
yeah, and then the billionaire, he's getting really worried. But when he goes out the back, all he's got to do is go out the back and walk over and open the door and walk in. But he does this whole Mission Impossible kind of taking the long way round, jumping over the railing. walking across the
You
edge of
see
the
him
pool.
trip and fall, like almost pretend to fall in too. Like he's by
For-
himself doing that.
Yeah, and he's pretending like the fall. And even when he goes to jump over the railing, like he ducks straight down, so his backside is nearly touching the pool, and he jumps right over. And we know this, and it's a comedy. He's playing for the audience to makes the and then he slams the door and fixes his jacket. He's doing it all for the camera. He's doing it for the audience, for laughs and for kicks. But yeah, but at the same time, too, it fits with his character because he is such an eccentric type of guy. He's just having fun. He just always wants to have fun.
Yeah, it all works so well with that. I love that how he's just always having. And then he comes out of the bathroom after that, just a mess at this party, and he's like, "I'll have to get this plumbing checked. I'm sorry, Mr. Ace." He's like, "It's okay, but had I been drinking out of the toilet, I could have been killed."
Might have been killed. When he comes out, he's like, "Woo! Do not go in there." It's just pack up on the water, and it just spits some. Yeah, exactly. It's so funny, and that's when he notices his ring, and that's when he makes the connection with the rings. I love when he's shaking his hand. He goes to kiss his hand, then he grabs his hand. He starts wrestling with him.
And he doesn't even say why or nothing.
Yeah,
and put it all together with the rings. Yeah,
yeah, but when he's hunting down all the team, who have the rings, and I love that montage how he's actually trying to find out, whose stone is missing from the ring. And I just love when he's driving the car and he's saying to the guy, like, "Oh, hey buddy, what's that piece of crap you're driving?" And he gives him the middle finger, but he takes the binoculars out and looks, and then it's just like, oh, damn it, and drives off. I always imagine what that guy was thinking. The fact that he gave him the finger, he had to do binoculars and then drove off, really annoyed.
All that stuff is all hysterical, which brings it to having Dan Marino in this movie. That guy was one of the greatest NFL football players of all time. Never won a Super Bowl. Now, this is what drives me nuts. I'm just going to explain it because it bothers me. In 1984, the Dolphins really did go to the Super Bowl, but they got killed by the 49ers, and they lost. So that clip of like them like with the missed field goal and everything, that's based on another kicker who about 5 years later, Scott Norwood for the Buffalo Bills, chip shot field goal to win the Super Bowl over the New York Giants, like 20 yards. Easy. Should be able to do it. Missed it. So that's what Ray Finkel is based on, is Buffalo Bills.
Right.
Scott Norwood. And the Dolphins did really lose the 84 Super Bowl, but just not to the teams in the movie.
Right.
So that's always what bothered me. But, getting Dan Marino in here is still pretty funny because it's just has some great scenes with him and Ace just like teaming up, and they're driving in the car and say, "Hey, Ace, you got any more of that gum?" No, but I'd like you to stay out of my personal business.
Yeah, stay out of my personal affairs. But that's the thing. That's what I said about this film being kind of like a wee bit more edgier. Like, I still find it now, and it did when I was younger as well. That whole, as the movie goes on, because it is a very light-hearted movie for the most part, because of the antics. And it's a very comic booky. So when I was reading on the wiki page, it actually said that Jim Carrey said himself that he wanted, when he came in, he helped rewrite the script because he's credited as one of the writers on this, and he says he wanted to make it kind of like a 007 James Bond, kind of like he's a pet detective, and everything had to be over the top. But when as the plot progresses and they start finding out more about this Ray Finkel character and all, I find it a bit disturbing.
It gets a little weird, especially when they go to his house, like, and meet his parents. Although it has one of my favorite lines, and we know when he pulls the gun on him, and he's like, "What do you know about Ray Finkel?" And then he actually knows everything about him. Soccer started kicking out of the university.
And he says that at the end of it, and a hell of a model American. I thought you were going to say when he does put the gun through the door, or when he wraps the door and then he opens up and goes, "What are you looking for? What do you want?" And he says, "I'm looking for Ray Finkel." And he puts the shotgun to his face and he says, "And a clean pair of shorts." But yes, when he goes into that house, it's really creepy. And even the mother, when he turns out and he says, the mother says, "Put the gun down," but he's wrestling with a gun. Then Jim Carrey's like going, "Jesus, oh my God." And he's like, "This is a fan of our son's. Come on in. Do you want a cookie?" And he's like, "Oh, when will Ray be home?" and he says, he ain't coming home. He says, you see that the lights are on, but nobody's home, or nobody's. You say the engine's running, but nobody's behind the wheel. And he's like,
Yeah.
And then she's like, do you want to come up and see Ray's room? No, first of all, she says about that it was that Dan Marino's fault. I hope he dies of gonorrhea. And then she brings him to the room and says, "Do you want to see his room?" And it's like it's mental. And she says to him, what a football fanatic, huh? It's got all these things die down on the wall and laces out, and that's one of my favorite lines too. Afterwards, when Ace Ventura goes to the phone. Courtney Cox, Melissa.
I was gonna say this, but you brought it up already.
Yeah, and he says about I'm in Psychoville and Finkel's the mirror, and says I just seen his bedroom. It's cozy if you're Hannibal Lecter. Yeah, so
he just can't help but screw it hard no matter what, even in a serious situation. He's like, "You thought I left, didn't you?"
Yeah, that's the other moment that I like as well. Well, that's not one of my favorite scenes, but the other kind of serious moment where Jim Carrey's still being funny, but I like that wee serious when he says they were like, "You thought I'd gone, didn't you?" And she was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "I'm really gonna go now." Bye. Hangs the phone up, but then of course then he says about going to shady
Shady
Acres, which I believe that's probably partly named after the director.
I would imagine so. I don't think it's a real mental institution, but
No.
This is probably the funniest scene in the movie.
Oh, it is, and he said one thing I noticed now that I'm older. He turns out and he says, she says, "How are we going to get in?" And he says, "I'm a master of disguise." He looks so different. He just put a bloody what do you call them things on ballerinas wear, and then just spike. It's her spiky instead of just stuck up. You know, it's spiked. But that was another scene in this movie I remember watching in the cinema, John. When he done the super slow mo.
That is the best. Like that's really good acting.
Yeah. When he does it backwards, and he's like, "Hold up."
Like, I think about everything that he did going in motion, like even to go against the doctor and roll his head against them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the Murr from Ghostbusters. I forgot he was in this movie.
Yeah, I know, playing that doctor. He's just walking behind them and he's like halftime and throws the water in his face.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying about when it gets very dark, and there's something I never really thought about until watching this the other night. I've seen this movie countless times over the years. When he tries to hide inside the box,
like he had a shot of getting
leg and everything up there, his leg and everything's up there and all. And but when the box breaks and he finds the newspaper about the real Lois Einhorn, a hiker that went missing. So in other words, this guy Finkel murdered her and assumed her identity, which is something I never really thought about. That's another kind of dark twist in this movie as well.
Oh, Einhorn's a very dark character. And I mean, in that scene, that one thing I noticed the other day, I just never really thought about how convenient was it that the first box he grabbed when he walked in the room was Finkel's box.
Okay. I didn't even think of that. I just assumed maybe it said Finkel on the side of it or something. Or maybe it said Nace is out on the side of it. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I know it said Finkel on top, but he literally walked in the room, looked right, looked left, and just grabbed that box. And I was like, oh, he got really lucky. And but I always thought it's so funny. Like, if they would have walked in the room, he had no shot. He didn't even barely get in the box.
Yeah, no, he didn't. You know, he would have been caught. I love that shot when he's standing back to the leg and all up in the air to the air, like trying. And of course, yeah, that then I think that might lead on the end of the scene where he goes into Einhorn and he says, "I've cracked this case," and then she kisses him, and it says about
Lois, your gun's digging into my hip.
Yes, but afterwards she's like, "What's wrong? Is it because of that bony wee bitch, Melissa?" And he says, "No, you just don't do anything for me." Down, boy. So yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. And then I think that accumulates. That this is my favorite scene. I am sorry, my favorite scene is when he's in his room trying to make the connection between Lois Einhorn and Ray Finkel, and he's like, "Finkel and Einhorn, Finkel and Einhorn, Finkel and Einhorn," and he's like, "In it together? How? Why?" And then when the dog gets on the picture and the hair around it, and then he says, "That's it. That's exactly what it is. Finkel is Einhorn, and Einhorn is Finkel. Louis Einhorn is a man. And the first thing he's like, oh my God. The first thing he thinks of is it's not Snowflake. It's not the fact that Roger Protector was killed or Lois Einhorn was murdered. And this person assumed their identity, right? The first thing he thinks of is, I kissed him.
I kissed the man.
It's the first date, and I just find that so hilarious. And then then the crying game starts playing. But even when it rolls into the next scene, and he's got all the chewing gum in his mouth, and he's watching her come out of the house, and he's chewing all the chewing gum. He's like, and then he just says, "Your gun is digging into my hip," and he's just like, "Oh God!" And see the face he puts, and it just drives off like angry.
Yeah, and what's funny is that, like, we finally got to the scene and how it's definitely very controversial, but it's not like they weren't aware of that. Like in the Wikipedia article, like Jim Carrey was quoted as saying that, obviously it's there to offend you and it's very homophobic, but it's done so obnoxiously and over the top, like you can't help but laugh. I mean, he's in the bathroom crying in the bathtub, lit his clothes on fire in the freaking room.
Exactly, and not only that, he's got the plunger, the plunger, and he's like going like that. Listen, I agree. I think that the controversy is blown out of proportion. It's a comedy movie. This isn't a documentary.
1994, by the way, it's 30 years old now.
Exactly, and very different times. But I grew up in that. I say you were born in the early 90s, but I was a teenager in the early 90s. And I have to say that I think that there was an awful lot of homophobia about the place. I mean, if you wanted to insult someone, that was the name you called them. That if you wanted to get into a fight, that's what, it was. But I do also think by the time we were coming out of the 90s, that a lot of that homophobia was starting to fizzle out, to be honest with you. But what I'm saying is that this is a comedy film. This isn't a documentary. It's not a drama. You know what I'm saying? And as you said, Jim Carrey cleared it up himself. He wanted it to make it the most homophobic scene you've ever seen, but he also wanted it to be over the top. And that's why I was going to mention as well about, anybody that takes this literal, they have they've got the wrong end of the stick, because earlier on in the movie, the guy actually caught a bullet in between his teeth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And but the only thing I will say is that it is an over the top reaction, but I think the majority of straight guys get it.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with it and I never really thought much of it. It wasn't until, you become more self-aware, like, oh, I could see why people would be offended by that. Never really crossed my mind in the 90s growing up and watching the movie. Just thought the scene was freaking funny. I mean, the way that he's overreacting. Yeah. I just think it's ridiculous that he would light a fire in his own bathroom, burn his clothes, and then be crying. Like, I didn't know about the crying game anyway. So, like, I saw that after Ace Ventura.
Yes. Yeah.
So, like, I didn't get the song or nothing like that until I saw the crying game. Then I'm like, oh, Ace Ventura.
Yeah, and I agree with you about the song, because when I hear that song, I think Ace Ventura, because I was the same. I didn't know anything about the crying game or anything. Listen, I was only 12 years of age when I seen this movie, and so I was very kind of naive to anything like that. I don't know. I don't even know how I even thought about it at the time. I kind of thought to myself, how is she a man? Do you know what I mean? I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but I just found it funny and just went with the movie. And as you say about the song, about the crying game, I did hear about the crying game. It was one of those school playground things that people would talk about. And I think also we were very aware of it here because of the subject matter of the movie, because it was written by Neil Jordan. You know what I mean? And the start of it was set in the north of Ireland, or it might have been set at the south of Ireland. I can't remember. But that's just a plot device of the movie. It's not what the movie's actually about. But I'm the same. I seen the crying game many years later, and I went, right, yeah. So they used that song in Ace Ventura, and I understand why they used it in Ace Ventura. Okay, but even now, when I hear that song, I just think Ace Ventura.
Yeah, no, I'll always think Ace Ventura when it comes to that. I mean, and of course, after that, they get up and like they solve it and they prove like why Einhorn's a man and who it is. But all that stuff is great. There's another thing that's just again, if you want to try to figure this out, they're watching the beginning of the Super Bowl, which is taking place in Miami, that the Miami Dolphins are playing in, which would never happen again in a million years as well. And they're gonna like make it there at halftime after they solve the crime. Like, oh, Tim Marino's gonna go there and he's gonna play the game now after being kidnapped for a week.
Yeah, exactly. I know, and it's condensed. And I mean, it's just the absurdity of something that you can get away with in a movie like this, but you wouldn't get away with it if it was a serious film because people would be asking that question. And as you say, once we kind of get to that climax of the movie, I love some of those lines when they're in the at the end where they're in the boathouse. It's like a boathouse. It's a boathouse or something. Now.
On a pond or a lake or a swamp or something.
Yeah, like a shed or something like that, a boat shed or something like that. But I love when he gets caught and then Einhorn comes in and they're watching the Super Bowl and somebody hits a very good field kick and Ace Ventura turns out and says, "It's good to see someone who doesn't buckle under the pressure."
What would you know about pressure?
And that's what he said. And that's what he says. Well, I have kissed a man. So yeah, I love those names. And then at the end, when he gets in the fight with Einhorn, nobody's even caught on yet. And Dan Marino says, "Having a bit of trouble with a lady, Ace? You don't understand. She's grabs her in the mouth, but then she ends up beating him up. And when the police come in, and Courtney Cox fakely takes the police officer hostage, and then he does this. Would a woman have one of these? Goes to pull the hair off. He says, "Well, you can grow your hair, but would a real woman have these?" Pulls open the blouse. It's like, "Oh, well, you can get that surgery done over the weekend." And then he says what about big old Mr. Matouche? But then what he says about the back, he says about, "Ladies and gentlemen, even the most best criminal minds can be wrong from time to time." And then he says about, "This is the worst case of hemorrhoids I've ever seen, but this is why Roger Predactor was killed. He found Mr. Winky."
That was the big reveal that they're all like wiping their mouths and everything.
She kissed everybody, even the dolphin was making noises at the end as well.
Yeah, she was just going around kissing everyone, Lois.
Yeah, and that's what I love as well about this movie as well. As we said, like it's it's not the great. Look, I enjoy the plot. As part of the plot of this movie, as I say, I enjoy it. Because of the whole kind of reveal and build up, and I don't think anybody would guess where it's going with Einhorn and stuff like that. I like how kind of edgy it is. I like some of the edgy comedy. I like Jim Carrey's performance in this I absolutely just think he's hilarious, and even Courtney Cox and Sean Young. But one great thing about it is John as well. Thinking about it, and I think to myself, they don't make movies like this no more. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't really watch many modern movies. No, they couldn't make a movie like this today. But what I do really like is that the bad person's caught, the dolphin is saved, Dan Marino's saved, and the hero gets the girl in the end.
Yeah, no, it gives you a happy ending. I mean, that's all you could ask for from a comedy, really.
It's perfect.
Yeah, it really is. And a couple scenes we glossed over that I think are just really funny is speaking of Roger Predactor, but when he dies and they're in his apartment investigating, and how he solves that, and goes through the whole door thing and everything, screaming, and then he comes out and he's like, "I have
exorcised the demons. This house
is clear."
Yeah. Losers, but I love when he turns and starts thrusting, and it's like, "Do you feel that, buddy? Huh? And everybody's just stopped looking at him.
He doesn't care. He proved just like, "I won. You guys are idiots."
Yeah, exactly, and that's brilliant. And that's say because the police really hate him when he is fighting Lewis, the Einhorn, iguana, or isn't that what you call him? Is sitting going, "Get him, Lewis, get him." He's a sleazy kid.
Yeah, he hates him, and that guy's actually pretty funny in this movie.
Yeah, no, he is. He's good in this as well. And this is the thing, is like, I remember as well. Now, I'm not saying that as the years have passed, John, as the years have went by, still love Ace Ventura, the movie. Still one of my favorite comedies. But we've done the National Lampoon's Vacation in our last podcast. I'm not sure where I'd rank Ace Ventura. I wouldn't say it is the funniest film I've ever seen, but it could be in my top 10. I do have other comedies which I would place above Ace Ventura. But I'll tell you something though. I remember actually after watching the movie, being in my cousin's. Afterwards, I must have been with my cousin to go and watch the movie as well. We went back to my cousin's, and standing in his kitchen, and I remember actually saying, at that point, I think I had like a couple of Jaws movies on VHS, and I remember actually saying, when this movie comes out in VHS, I said, I love this movie so much. I was like, it's the funniest movie I've ever seen. I says, I cannot wait till it's out in VHS. As soon as it comes out, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy it. And I actually remember going down. It was my 13th birthday, and I had money for my 13th birthday, and I went into Belfast City Centre and I bought the VHS. I'm near certain I still have that VHS in a box in the attic. So I did. I was true to my word, and I remember it was my brother. My oldest brother had just passed his driving test at the time, and he was off work, and I actually had to go for it. It was a dentist appointment. He brought me to it, and then brought me into the town, and I went over and I bought the VHS. And I come home, me and my brother and my mum sat and watched it, and I think my mum laughed, can't remember, but me and my brother sat pissing ourselves laughing again at this film. So as I say, it's definitely a favorite of mine.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, now looking back, I still love this movie. It still gives me some of the funniest. And the thing is, I don't realize how much I'm quoting this movie. Like, I'll describe my car, just become a line from this movie. I'll be like, well, it's a high performance machine. I have to fill it with premium. Just from this movie.
Yes. That's another great scene at the start as well, when he's starting there, and he says like I can never repay you, and he's like, well, a reward would be nice. And it's just like what about I just take your pants off instead? And he's like, okay. I love how he's hanging on. He's like, whoa, you're real friendly around here.
Have you ever noticed at the bottom of his frame, at the bottom of the frame, they don't pull his pants down, like they're just still up.
He's still up, and he's just got around the face. Yeah, it's so goofy, like, as well. It's the same as well in the movie as well, when the girl recommends the pet that the rep says, the girl in the Miami Dolphins reception says to Courtney Cox and Roger Protector, have you ever thought about hiring a pet detective? And Courtney Cox says, oh, a pet detective? No, I think we'll just leave this to professionals. And she says, oh, no, they're very professional. And it shows you him trying to catch this bird on the roof. And he jumps and slides and falls down. And he's laying there, like, and his beeper goes off. A beeper, that shows how dated this movie is. But his beeper goes off, and he's laying like, he lifts the beeper, and it's like, the guy with the beeper, very professional. He looks at, but yeah, it's so funny. Like, every scene, there's not a scene wasted in this movie. And I went and I watched the deleted scenes, hoping, that I would get more. I watched them on YouTube the other night thinking, oh, it's deleted scenes. I didn't realize, it was about 12 minutes of deleted scenes, and hoping I'm going to get more Ace Ventura. And as I was watching them, I remembered what you had said in one of our previous podcasts. Deleted scenes are deleted for a reason. And I'm glad they're not in the movie, because this film's just so tight. It's only 83 minutes long.
No, it's crazy how fast this movie flies by. That's used to be what comedies were. Tight 90 minutes, in and out. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles did something very similar. There's like a half hour cut from that movie, and when you watch the deleted scenes, you're like, good reason for them to cut it. Keep the movie tight. Some things you don't need to see. Like, some things you could figure out on your own as you go.
Yeah, but when I because we study film or watch film, and I remember James Cameron saying that about Terminator. And they do this even as well. Well, Terminator 2, sorry. They do this as well even when they're writing scripts. So when you rewrite a script, and it's kind of like, well, I've already explained this here. I'm explaining it again here now again. I don't need this, so I can take this out. Or sometimes it is for budgetary reasons. Sometimes it's for pacing reasons. It's kind of like, well, I can trim the edge of this scene or trim the end of that scene. I can shorten this dialogue here. But I was watching some of them deleted scenes, and it was kind of like, yeah, I can see why this isn't in the movie. James Cameron said that as well about Terminator 2. There were certain scenes that he took out, which he said, well, we don't need them because it's already been explained here.
Yeah,
You
you
know?
don't necessarily need those scenes. Like, yeah, it might be cool
Yep.
to see, but you don't necessarily need them in the movie for it to come out. I think that's one of the biggest problems again with modern film is nobody seems to trust an editor anymore, and they just want to put everything in the movie. And now we're just ending up with how many different 3-hour movies all the time. And it's like, movies don't always need to be 3 hours.
No, and it's bloated. It bloats movies, John, as well.
Like you can see it when you're watching a movie, you're like, "Ah, I didn't need that." Like, you can keep a movie tight. Like, yes, there are times, and it's always been like that in Hollywood where you need 3-hour movies. I mean, Lawrence of Arabia is
Yeah.
4 hours long, but it justifies itself. Certain movies do. Not every movie
Yes.
needs to be that.
Not every movie, and the funny thing was when I was putting this on the other night, it's been so long since I watched it. I was sitting thinking, oh, I think this is on for about 90 minutes, maybe a wee bit more, maybe 95, maybe 98. I looked at the back of the DVD and it said 83 minutes. I couldn't believe it. I went, this is only 83 minutes long. Now, it doesn't feel long. The movie does fly by, but I think there's just so much happens in it. It feels like it's longer. It's like we used to have a show here. It was on in the 70s called Fawlty Towers. You might have heard of it. John Cleese.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it because of John Cleese.
Yeah. Well, it's very, very funny, and people misremember that he only ever made 12 episodes of Fawlty Towers, 2 series or 2 seasons, 6 episodes a season, but so much happens within that half an hour that it feels like there was more episodes. It feels like it was a longer season. And I think that kind of ties into Ace Ventura here. So much happens in that 83 minutes, so many different scenes that it feels as if it's a longer movie, but it doesn't feel long.
No, the scenes are pretty quick in and out. We cut to the next scene. We're doing something else and moving the plot along at a pretty rapid rate. They really don't spend much time with any set pieces.
No, they don't.
So it actually kind of works. Like he's in his apartment a couple times. Love it the first time he goes to his apartment with all the food, and we see his landlord, who would become famous from Breaking Bad, which is funny, but sneaks up behind him. Ventura, yes, Satan. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I thought you were somebody else.
I thought you were somebody else. And he says about I hear animals in there. I hear them scratching. And he says I never bring my homework with me, sir. Or I never bring my work home with me, sir. And he says, well, what's all this pet food for? And he's like, fiber.
Fiber.
Fiber. But I seen that guy, that landlord. I seen him. He's in Scarface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I also he was in Oz.
Yeah, no, he's a working actor. Requiem for a Dream.
Yep. Yeah, and I'd seen him in Columbo, which I also want to point out as well that Ace Ventura does a Columbo, a slight Columbo impression in this movie when he's solving the Roger Protector. I can't. Why did I not say his name? Murder when they said about what is it the police say to him, and he's like, I think I'm out of my league here. I'll just leave you to it. But then he turns to walk and he goes, there's just one more thing. So he does this Columbo.
And then he points out the blood on the railing, right?
No, that's just before he points out about the glass.
Oh, right before the glass, yeah. Which is good detective work, noticing the glass.
Yeah, because he mentions the blood. I'm trying to remember the sequence of events, but he goes in and then she says, what's he doing here in the crime scene? And then I can't remember, but he goes out on the balcony and you see him with the blood, and then he says about he didn't jump, and then she says, how did he not jump? And he says, well, apart from the fact there's blood on the railing over there, and walks out. And then you see her kind of looking, but then when he goes back in, I can't remember, they point something else out, and then he just says, oh, looks like I'm out of my league here. And he pretends to walk out and he stops and he goes, but there's just one more thing, and turns around like Columbo used to do. Have just one more thing. And that's what he says about, you're the neighbor, you live across the way, you heard a scream. He said, yeah. He says, you're certain you heard a scream? Yeah. And he says, and you had to open that door when you came in? Yeah. You're certain you had to open that door? Yes, I did. And that's when he says about the door.
Yeah, and the soundproof glass. It's actually funny because when I did sales for a little while, and one thing they teach you is the Columbo close. Like, you're getting up, about to leave, and then you go, there's just one more thing,
I'll be honest, John. Columbo is one of my favorite series of all time. I absolutely love Columbo.
That just got a Blu-ray release box set with all the episodes and everything.
Yeah, it's only the 70s and 60s ones. And
really?
Oh yeah, it only goes up because they they stopped Columbo in the late 70s, and then they brought him back in the late 80s, and he went on. Then he just done like specials. I think he just done specials then for like the 80s and into the 90s up until early 2000s. And but the first box set is from the late 60s up to the late 70s, and I've been keeping my eye on it. It's a bit pricey at the minute. I think it's about £114.
I don't remember what the studio is, but I think they have a sale, and that'd probably be the best way to get it.
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna get my finances in check first. You know what I mean? Just keep the eye on it. Yeah, and if a sale comes up, I'll be tempted because I definitely want to get it. I was a bit disappointed they're only doing up to the late 70s, but I suppose they'll do the 80s and 90s ones at another time, and I can pick them up because I have the box set on DVD, the full box set from the 60s right through to 2003 or whatever it was, and I haven't messed it away, but it used to be my Hanover comfort. So if I was hungover, I could just throw Columbo on, and I used to see the start, fall asleep, and wake up at the end when he was solving it, and I was quite happy.
You didn't have to watch him doing the work in the middle.
No, I usually just used to doze off because I was hungover. And then
of it.
yeah, and then the next episode would come on, and then the same thing would happen. I would watch the start, fall asleep, and then wake up at the end.
Classic.
That's brilliant. Peter Falk was brilliant.
Peter Falk was great. It's funny actually. I watched a movie I hadn't seen in a long time, but I know it's like one of the most famous movies by John Cassavetes. A Woman Under the Influence, and he's in that, and it's always so funny watching him in that and watching him in Columbo. So different.
Yeah, do you know, I don't think I've seen Peter Falk in anything outside of Columbo.
It's definitely strange seeing him in anything but Columbo. It's always so different. And this movie, he's like a disheveled husband. You know, his wife's like she's got some real problems, and seeing him like who's always this confident guy, it's weird.
Yeah.
Acting, like, that's what an actor can do.
Oh yeah, the thing is that he just became so synonymous with Columbo, and look, because I was a person that because the Columbo was on the 70s and then came back in the 80s, like he was always kind of there. When it was on TV, Columbo was always kind of there. He was always on the television. People always talked about Columbo. So it wasn't like I was watching Peter Falk in movies and then this brand new show come on called Columbo, whereas I already had this connection to Peter Falk maybe being in movies, and you go, oh, he's playing a different character here. To me, he was Columbo. But John Cassavetes was in. I think he played the killer in at least one of the Columbo episodes. I don't know if he played him again. He may have played him a couple of times, the killer. But he did direct a few episodes as well.
Yeah, John Cassavetes is very fascinating. I think he was friends with Peter Falk. Like, I think they were really close. And actually, John Cassavetes' wife, who's in all his movies too, just passed away the other day. Drawing a blank on her name. So to bring it all full circle, she was just just passed away. But she was who played the wife in The Woman Under the Influence. She's great too. And it's funny. I wonder if like he did all that as a favor to Peter Falk doing the Columbo episodes.
He probably did, because I think Peter Falk then became like a producer on the Columbo series. And what I love about Columbo, going all totally off topic here, but what I love about we are, but still detectives. But what I love about Columbo is as well, apart from Peter Falk's performance, and we all know the story with Columbo. You see it happen at the start. You see the murder. You see them do it. But what's great about it is how he actually goes about solving it and catching them out and setting traps for them. Another thing I love about Columbo is the era. I love watching the 70s and 80s, especially the 80s, 70s, or especially the 70s and the 80s. Not so much the 90s when we go into the 2000s, but that era of television or movies, seeing the old cars and the old decor and the clothes and the hairstyles. But what's great about it is the guest stars who come on the show and play the murderers. I mean, you have all sorts of celebrities playing the murderers on that show. Johnny Cash played one of the murderers at one stage.
I know, it's incredible, which Johnny, and that's the era, and that's kind of what led to like Miami Vice. Like Phil Collins plays like one of the bad guys in one of those episodes. It was just they used to just do that, get like guys for one episode arcs, and that was cool. They don't do that anymore. It's like because they don't have, because seasons of shows aren't like that anymore. They were like 24 episodes, like back in the day, which led to one of my favorite shows, like the X-Files. Like X-Files seasons were 24 episodes. Never in a million years would that happen today. They would never have that. It would all just be story lore. They could never have any fun, like one episode arcs that open a story, close the story. They just don't do that anymore.
Yeah, and just before I touch on that, when you're saying about Miami Vice, that's another great line I like in Ace Ventura when Einhorn tells somebody to get her a cup of coffee, and he's in her office already, and he says, what's he say? On the next episode of Miami Vice, Crockett gets the boss a cup of coffee. but the thing is about television as well, John. Back in those days, television was seen as cheap, and everything was done on the cheap, and that's what I like about a Columbo too, is that it was a Universal product, and they filmed a lot of it on the Universal backlot. So I love seeing that, and the old Universal Studios Hollywood backlot. And the thing is, as well, is that they had a lot of players who were who worked for the studio or who done movies for the studio. You had like Janet Leigh coming back, and she was the killer in an episode. You had William Shatner. You had Leonard Nimoy. Had all these great personalities and celebrities and actors that co-starred in Columbo throughout the 70s. And the difference now is that 2 wee seconds. She's trying to hop over to me here. Television now is almost like it's up there with movies. It's almost surpassed movies, and they're done a lot more expensive. And now you have like A-list actors wanting to be in television shows. Not only that, it's steady work. Like I had heard the other day that the latest Star Wars series, which just got cancelled. I don't know the name of it because I don't watch it. Yeah, well, they were saying that it cost $100 million a season.
That's insane.
Isn't that crazy? $100 million a season. Now, back in the day, television was seen as cheap, and we all know that there were certain television shows that were cancelled because they started to get too expensive. One of them was the Batman series in the 60s. That went for 3 seasons. They were going for a 4th, and it was cancelled because it was too expensive.
Yeah, it's about the bottom line, and now it kind of pays off. But yeah, that's always how it was. Just to circle back to the X-Files, just because I love the X-Files, they filmed in Canada the first 6 seasons. Because even though it's an American show before they moved back to Los Angeles, tax write-offs. And when you watch the show, you're always wondering why they're always traveling to all these cities, but they all look the same, very woodsy and everything. And it's like, well, it's because they're filming in Canada.
Yeah, I mean,
fine. I didn't mind that.
No, and I'm sitting and I'm watching Nick Columbo, and I'm going to myself, and this is just nostalgia for me, John. It's like I said about Jaws 3. It's a comfort blanket for me. While you're feeling a bit hungover, you're not feeling the best. You know what I mean? And I throw on Columbo. It's a comfort blanket for me. But I'm sitting and I'm watching Columbo, and I'm going to myself, I recognize that set. I've seen that in a movie, or you know what I mean? Or I'd be sitting watching it going, oh, this is the same set they used in an earlier episode, only it's dressed differently, right?
Yeah, so you always notice that stuff, and it's great.
Yeah, and it's reused over and over again. And one of my favorite scenes, I have to bring it up, is he walks onto the Jaws set in 1976 or 77, and there's the shark in the background in the orca, and he actually says to the guy, there's 2 guys talking, and he walks up to them, Peter Falk, and says, excuse me, is that the shark from Jaws? And they're like, yeah, I think so. And he's like, wow. And he's like, can I just ask, is that the one they actually used in the movie, though? And they're like, we think so. And he's like, because no other way it was all mangled up at the end. And they're like, sorry, who are you? And he's like, oh, sorry, I'm Detective Columbo. Right? And there it is. There's the orca, and there's the shark from the Jaws attraction in the background. And it's like 1976, 77. It's all changed now. But just wee nuggets like that I see when I watch Columbo, like you're saying about the X-Files, because it was done not on the cheap, but cheaper than movies. It doesn't bother you because you enjoy the characters, you enjoy the storyline, and that's basically all that matters.
Yeah, and actually, as one thing I wanted to touch on that you mentioned, and I feel like you probably feel the same way as me because you mentioned about Columbo, seeing all the old cars and everything like that. A little touchy subject, but with like Alien Romulus, watching that, and it's just like you can watch an era, and if you try and even recreate that era, it's not the same as watching a movie from that era, and you just can't recreate it. Like having even like this movie, just talking about Ace Ventura, 1994. Look at all the cars they're driving. The police cars in the parking lot. The clothes. Obviously, what Ace is wearing, nobody in their right mind would ever wear. But everybody else is wearing like clothes of the era, and you can't recreate that. Like just the way movies look. Like you can watch. I'm sure you could do it too, but I can watch a movie and I'll know like, Oh, I can give a roundabout. Oh, this kind of came out between 91 and 93. I could tell from because like the film stock will almost look the same.
Yeah, exactly, and that's authentic about it, and I think that's what I really like. People about Columbo, people will turn around and say like, that's an old show, or why would you want to watch that? And there's probably better shows out there than Columbo that I probably wouldn't spend the time and sit down and watch. But that's what I like about it. It's authentic of the time. I get lost in that time period watching the movie. And
Yeah.
it's not just about me following the story, even though I've maybe seen the episode before. It's about me watching everything on the screen.
Yeah, it's kind of
Um,
comforting.
the decor, as you said, the clothes, the cars, just everything about it. It's a bygone era. It's an era that doesn't exist anymore. It's alien. Like, see if me and you got in a time machine and went to that era, it would maybe like Marty McFly, then go into the 50s. Do you know what I mean? It's totally alien to us. It would be completely different to us. We couldn't relate to it.
No, there's not a cell phone in sight. These people are walking around. If they got to go make a phone call, they got to go like find a payphone somewhere.
Yeah, and it's not coming back. And I just like it's like a time capsule, and that's what I like about it as well. And funny, I've just saying there because I want to touch on it before I forget as well. What did you think about the music for this movie as well? Because obviously it's just like a Vacation. It's not going to win an Oscar. But how did you feel about the music in the film?
Overall, like the score, like the main Ace Ventura theme is pretty good. I like that. Like, kind of like when the big horns coming in when he kind of flies in the car. He's got his head out the window. That stuff is good. But even like the dramatic scenes, like we were talking about earlier, like how he actually gets to show off his acting a little bit when it's just him and Courtney Cox in that one scene. The score kind of matches up well to it. It's more of like a dramatic piece of music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really love the Ace Ventura theme as well. The ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
and that kind of heavy metal music, it suits his personality. It suits his zany kind of eccentric, over the top kind of personality. But like you say as well, I really like as well those quieter moments. It's very early 1990s, but there's also as well when the saxophone comes in. Do you know what it reminds me of? And I think that's what they're going for. It reminds me of like the Lethal Weapon movies.
Oh yeah, definitely. When you hear saxophone like that, that's always what comes to mind because nobody leaned on the sax more than Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, and it's almost like they're trying to touch on that as if to say, like, these guys here, Lethal Weapon, they're detectives, and we have a detective here. Only he's a pet detective, and I feel as if that's the kind of vibe that we're going for in the film.
Oh, I definitely agree. I'm sure that was intentional, and it works. It works. It does everything for this movie works pretty well. They also have the Aerosmith song that plays over that montage that works really well too, which is very much of the early 1990s.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is a quintessentially a 90s movie, and I think that when we look back at like the greatest 90s movies and stuff like that, or especially even from 1994, Ace Ventura is definitely going to be mentioned there. 1984, you've mentioned it before, John, has had some really good movies come out in that year. But yeah, Ace Ventura definitely has to be mentioned.
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned that because tomorrow I have a video coming out on the channel that's the best movies of 1994.
Oh, really? Do you?
Yeah.
Class. Well, here they're actually
on that list.
I had actually sent you about they're showing the Terminator in the cinema here on the 31st of August, where they're actually showing Pulp Fiction this Saturday night on the cinema screen.
Really? See,
Yep.
all these great movies celebrating anniversaries this year. I just rewatched Pulp Fiction a couple weeks ago. Still love that movie.
Yeah, but that put me in mind. I was like, I need to give it a watch. I haven't watched it in a while.
Yeah, it'd been a couple years since the 4K came out since I watched it, and I was like, I listened. I don't know if you listened to the Rewatchables podcast on it. It was like 4 hours long.
I heard you mention that in one of the episodes you done. I have listened to one of them. I don't know if I've listened to a 4-hour one because I know they've went back and revisited movies because they revisited Forrest Gump recently.
Yeah, they do. It was a 2-parter. This Pulp Fiction one. It was like they're like a huge. I actually watched it on YouTube.
God, maybe I haven't then. Maybe I seen it and thought I need to rewatch Pulp Fiction. Then I'll listen to it. I can't remember. I might have done. I was listening when I was decorating my kitchen and my dining room last summer, and that's when I discovered the Rewatchables, and I just binged listened to them when I was redecorating. I listened to so many different ones, so I could have done. Maybe if I start listening to it, I'll be like, oh yeah, I've listened to this one already.
Yeah, it's a good one. They cover everything about that movie, which is awesome. So I loved it. And then I listened to the Grand Budapest Hotel one after. And listening to that makes me want to watch the movies.
Yes, yeah, it does. Yeah,
So but I think we covered everything about Ace Ventura. We almost went as long as the movie.
yeah, I have it on the background here, and I'm near the end. Ace is just throwing an einhorn into the water and is taking the ring off her finger.
Quick
That's
decision.
for yeah. That's right. That's right. Die, animal boy.
Just flips her into the water.
And I love how he's just saying he kind of like he brushes dirt up into your face like a dog would do when after they've went for a pee.
Yeah, he's
Uh-huh.
such an asshole. Of
Uh-huh.
course he would do
Yes.
that.
Yeah, exactly. And look, as I say, this was the start for me of Jim Carrey's amazing run in the 90s. And the next one he done was The Mask. And I would love to do The Mask at some stage. For me, I think The Mask is probably my favorite Jim Carrey movie. I don't know if it's his best, but it's definitely one of my favorites.
It's in my top 3 for sure. I still love that. I would love to do The Mask. I can always do The
Yeah.
Mask.
Yeah.
So definitely would do that. But why don't you tell him, David, what we are doing next?
What are we doing next? We're going to head back to the Old West.
The Old West.
And we're going to do Young Guns.
Nice. Yep. The first Young Guns movie.
Which is funny because when I was doing the research for a wee bit of research for Ace Ventura was done by Morgan Creek, and the start of Ace Ventura, that music at the start, it always reminds me of Ace Ventura. But I didn't realize their first movie that they ever done was Young Guns.
Oh, Morgan Creek. That logo is very synonymous with a lot of movies from the early 1990s and late 1980s.
Yeah.
They're still around. Sometimes I'll see their new logo, but their first logo sticks out.
Yeah, but hey, listen, they've done some big movies in the 90s. I didn't realize. I was looking up on like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and can't remember. They've done a Free Willy. It was a big movie, yeah. It was. And of course, Ace Ventura was a big hit for them as well. So, I mean, yeah. It was actually the name I seen. Robinson, was it G. Robinson or something? And I was like, he done Young Guns too. And then when I clicked on it, I didn't realize, oh, right. So he did Young Guns. And then he done all these movies, and that brought him to Young Guns too, But it's really funny that we decided to pick these two movies back to back, and they were done by Morgan Creek. It's a strange coincidence.
Yeah, and actually, funny enough, I guess we'll talk about this more next week, but I was thinking about it because you mentioned another movie recently that asked me if I had seen. I had it. I realized you're a pretty big fan of Emilio Estevez.
Oh yes, and I'm saving that for of course when we get to Emilio's movies. yeah. We're gonna do an Estevez September.
That's I was thinking about it. I'm like, he always references some sort of Emilio Estevez movie, like one of your favorite buddy comedies too.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, Loaded Weapon is another good one. Yeah.
So like you're an Emilio Estevez guy, and he's great in Young Guns, so I'm looking forward to doing it.
Yeah, definitely 100%. It's been a while since I've seen Young Guns, and I've seen that they brought out Young Guns 2 in Blu-ray. I don't know if it's out in 4K yet. Did you get it in 4K? The first one's out in 4K, isn't it?
The first one's on 4K. I have that. 2 hasn't come to 4K yet. I think because that one came out last year. I was hoping 2 would come out this year, but nothing yet.
Right. Well, as you know, I've recently upgraded my television to a 4K TV, and I'm gonna get around to getting a 4K player. So what I'm gonna do is I've only got Young Guns on DVD and Young Guns 2 on DVD. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait to get my 4K player and just upgrade to 4K.
Yeah, I'd do that. No reason to upgrade yet until you get the 4K, and hopefully at that point 2's out and you can get them in a double pack.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, I'd really love to.
2's a great one. 2 is great. I love 2 as well. Like, that one feels. Yeah, I mean, I love the first one, but the second one might be better.
Well, yeah, in my opinion, it's better. But I still love the first one as well. But the second one, if I had to, like, if you were to me, look, we can only watch one right now, which one do you want to watch? I'd say I'll put on 2.
2 takes a little bit more of the risk. I mean, we'll talk about this more on the next show.
Yeah.
We're gonna ruin
exactly, and and since we're doing Young Guns 1 at some stage, want to do Young Guns 2, so we'll hit on that one at some stage as well.
Oh, definitely. Oh, I'm sure we will because we have to.
Oh, we'll have to. It's face.
Yeah, at some point. But we hope you guys enjoyed our show here about Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and we will see you guys on the next show. So, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video for this week's Digital Code Giveaway. In every single video we do here on the channel on Friday, I'm going to ask you guys 2 Digital Code Giveaway questions. All you got to do is answer one of those questions in the comment section below. As long as you did that, you came back to Tuesday's video. I'll put your name on a magic wheel. I'll spin that bad boy 2 times. The 2 names it lands on, they'll have the choice of the digital codes you've seen on your screen before you today. And we just got done talking about Ace Ventura. Jim Carrey, one of my favorite actors of all time, and I want to hear from you guys. What is your favorite Jim Carrey performance of all time? And I asked you guys a couple weeks ago, what was your favorite 80s comedy? Well, Ace Ventura happens to be a 90s comedy. So what is your favorite 90s comedy of all time? And I think we'll get some great answers with this one for both Jim Carrey and for the 90s comedy question. And guys, I really appreciate everybody who enters into the Digital Code giveaway. It really means the world to me, so thank you guys all so much. And if you guys like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends about us. And then, of course, we have channel memberships. So if you want to become a friend of the channel, or a producer for the channel like John Doe Juggalo and Jason Martin, or even a channel director like Frank from Frank's Media Reviews and Mr. Smelly Potato, you guys can look for all that information in the description below. This upcoming Tuesday, we will have our channel members physical media giveaway. So if you guys want to make sure you enter before that and be included in that giveaway, this upcoming Tuesday, we will be putting all those names on a magic wheel, spinning that bad boy, and that name will have their choice of the physical media stuff that we are giving away this month here on the channel. But if you got no money to throw our way, guys, don't worry about it. We just hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.